Let's address a fundamental disconnect between how intermittent fasting is studied and how it works in real life. Many studies, including the one we're examining, ask participants to maintain their normal calorie intake within a restricted eating window. This is called an isocaloric design, meant to test whether timing matters independent of calories. But here's the problem. In practice, this is nearly impossible, and the impossibility tells us something important about how intermittent fasting actually works. When you compress your eating into 8 hours instead of 12 or 15, you're not just changing timing. You're changing opportunities to eat. You skip breakfast, eliminating one eating occasion. You might skip morning and afternoon snacks. You're probably not having late-night snacks. Each eliminated eating occasion represents potential calorie reduction. Even if you're trying to maintain total intake, most people cannot compensate for skipped eating occasions by eating equivalently larger meals. Your stomach has finite capacity. Your appetite signals don't immediately adjust to tell you to eat 50% more at lunch because you skipped breakfast. Social situations that would normally involve eating are skipped entirely when they fall outside your window. The end result? Spontaneous calorie reduction that participants might not even consciously recognize. This explains a puzzling pattern in the research. Isocaloric studies, where researchers strictly control food intake, show minimal benefits from intermittent fasting. Free living studies, where people just restrict their eating window without calorie targets, show more impressive results. Why? Because the free living studies aren't actually testing meal timing. They're testing a behavioral strategy for calorie restriction that works by structurally limiting eating opportunities. This doesn't make intermittent fasting useless. If anything, it highlights its practical value. Calorie restriction is notoriously difficult psychologically. People hate counting calories, tracking food, weighing portions, calculating energy intake. It's tedious, it's time-consuming, and it feels restrictive. Intermittent fasting offers a simpler rule. Eat during certain hours, don't eat outside those hours. For many people, this is easier to follow than conscious calorie counting, but we need to be honest about what's happening. Intermittent fasting works for weight loss primarily by creating an energy deficit, not through timing-specific metabolic magic. When it works, it's because people end up eating less food overall. The fasting window is a behavioral constraint that achieves calorie restriction indirectly. This also explains why intermittent fasting doesn't work for everyone. Some people can perfectly compensate for skipped meals by eating more during their window. They might even overcompensate, eating more total calories than they would have with unrestricted timing. For these individuals, intermittent fasting might not produce any weight loss or might even cause weight gain. Individual differences in hunger patterns matter tremendously here. Some people aren't hungry in the morning and skip breakfast naturally. For them, formalizing this as intermittent fasting doesn't change much. Others wake up ravenous and struggle intensely without morning food. Forcing them to skip breakfast creates misery and might lead to overeating later. The strategy works best for people whose natural hunger patterns align with the eating window. There's also the hedonic aspect of eating. Some people eat primarily when hungry, responding to physiological signals. Others eat for pleasure, comfort, social connection, or boredom. For people who eat primarily for non-hunger reasons, simply restricting the time window might not reduce total intake much. They'll pack all that hedonic eating into fewer hours instead of spreading it across the day. The psychological simplicity of intermittent fasting is real and valuable. Instead of asking, "Should I eat this?" about every food encounter throughout the day, you ask, "Is it my eating window?" This reduces decision fatigue. It creates clear boundaries. For people who struggle with impulsive eating or constant snacking, these boundaries can be helpful, but we should stop pretending this is fundamentally different from traditional dieting. It's a dietary constraint method that works through behavioral restriction, leading to calorie reduction. Whether that's through fewer eating occasions, reduced snacking, skipped social food events, or increased awareness of eating patterns, the mechanism is energy deficit. not metabolic transformation. If intermittent fasting helps you control your intake without obsessive calorie tracking, great. Use it as a tool. But if you're struggling with it, if you're compensating fully during your eating window, if it's making you miserable, recognize that you can achieve the same calorie deficit through other methods. There's nothing magic about the specific timing if the energy balance doesn't favor fat loss.